My left ear has been, not left, this is your right ear, honey. My right, this is the right. Left, right. I'm still that person. My left ear's been kind of clogged, but I am still that person that when somebody's like, it's mainly in dance classes. Do this, the left, do this, whatever. And I literally am that person. I still have to left, right. I still sometimes get left and right confused. Let's get this show on the road because I always record these videos right before lunch. And I just don't want to be sitting here all day. So, hard copy. I always forget to do my intro. Hi, my name is Alana. Welcome to my YouTube channel. And on this channel, we review books. All right, that being said, hard copy by Fien Veldman. I think I pronounced that right. She is Dutch. This author. This is her debut novel. And this was sent to me kindly by Bloomsbury US, which is also an imprint, or this was published by Head of Zeus. So they reached out to me, asked me if I was interested in receiving a copy of this book and reviewing it. It was released in September, I want to say, of 2024. So this is a newer release. And I said yes. And so they sent it to me. I received it in October of 2024. I keep wanting to say 3. We are in 2025. Weird to think about. And there's not a thought going on behind my eyes. I am low-key tired. And I agreed because, again, if this is a book that I saw in a bookstore, I probably wouldn't have picked it up. The cover is, I think, hilarious. But when I see the synopsis of it, it actually goes in line with books that, a little niche of literature, if you will, that I'm fascinated by. And it's this critique of modern work culture. And if you've watched my video from last week, same thing. So these books, I read them, I think, back to back. And they were good compliments. They asked a lot of the same questions, just from a different angle. The heavier the layer gets, the more I start doubting my experience of reality. So in hard copy, which ironically, they sent me the hard copy edition, but I don't think the paperback is even released yet. We have an unnamed narrator, and she is underappreciated at work. She has one of those office jobs that is often looked down on. She's at the bottom of the totem pole. She is the odd woman out, and thus she has befriended her work printer. So she believes that she and this printer have a sort of friendship, and as she talks to it, it communicates with her. So she says. And so she believes. And during her workday, she is audibly talking out loud to this printer. So yes, this premise, my hair is all over the place. Static. This sweater, I got static going on. So this may seem like an unserious premise and kind of goofy, but I think that Veldman does a really good job taking this unusual dynamic, or kind of a plot line that would be easy to kind of glance over and think it's silly. And she asks deeper questions about modern work culture and this existential crisis that it's often created in quite a few people these days. And also, it highlights our current relationship with technology and machines. So again, this was a read that complimented The Employees by Olga Ravin. I think I'm pronouncing her last name right. I could be wrong. Well, because I read them one after the other. So, like I mentioned earlier, the narrator in this narrative, there's a typo. I wrote this last night, and haven't edited it yet, so there we go. She's, like I've said, she's an outlier. So she doesn't really have any friends at work other than her printer. And she doesn't even really have many close relationships outside of work. She has one best friend, but these two women are really only friends because they've grown up together at a point. You know what I mean? They're just loyal to each other in one way, but I never really picked up on an actual sense of a deep, deep bond between these two women. She has also a weird, I don't know if I would call it estranged, but a weird relationship dynamic with her mother. So she's kind of just a very solitary creature. And even though she comes across, and she is really a quiet, reflective person, introverted, a bit awkward, she is internally questioning the reality around her and asking these very deep questions as she's just observing the hamster wheel of life going on around her. I'm still in one of the orbits spinning around the center, but it's a fringe orbit, the true edge. Why do people assume that there's only one reality, and why do we all have to submit to it? What we see isn't the only truth. There are all kinds of phenomena that deny our power of observation, phenomena that refute our mathematical models, that radically shake our concept of logic. Why can't I live like that? There is a strong existentialist tone in this novel, again, because there is this tension between what this narrator is feeling, sensing, wanting, longing for, perhaps, and it just is not in line with the reality around her. She's not buying what she's seeing. She doesn't buy the script. She wants no part of it. She's not a part of this matrix, if you will, and she is at odds with it. She also realizes that life is temporary. And if life is temporary and short and unpredictable, what is all of this for? And this parallels very nicely with her relationship with the printer. This printer is older. It's got these quirks. It jams a lot. Classic work printer. It's always jammed at least once a week. And eventually all electronic devices die. They get replaced. There are newer, better, shinier, sleeker versions. So equipment, our technological devices, our cell phones, our laptops, etc., they're pumping out new ones every year. Apple, with updates nobody asked for. And so they become easily replaceable. So what does a temporary existence mean? And is there even a point to such an existence if an end for is inevitable, whether you're human or not? A temporary pacification of the precariousness of our existence. That is depressing. Everything I pass will eventually become rubbish. It just depends at which point you decide something is worthless. So within this existential crisis, we get this critique of modern work culture, especially in the office environment. Cleverly, I can't read. I am tired. So cleverly, no one in this novel is referred to by their actual names. Rather, they're referred to as their job titles or the realm in which they work. So she's in an office setting. So whenever she has to interact with her coworkers, or she talks about her coworkers in the narrative, she refers to them of marketing, PR, human resources. And again, our narrator is at the bottom of the hierarchy. She's in an administrative role, making copies and dealing with customer complaints via email and phone. And so because she's at the bottom of the totem pole, her position isn't respected. It's not looked at as serious. And she also isn't interested in playing the game. She's not interested in climbing the professional ladder. She just wants to go to work, do what needs to be done to make ends meet, and live her life the way that she wants to live it, low key, which in a culture that tells you to hustle, 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 how dare you, right? She sees the office environment as a controlling entity that squashes uniqueness and gets people to buy into a system that treats them as dispensable. She also pays homage to those like herself who may not have these sexy jobs. They're not attorneys, they're not doctors, they're not CEOs, or they didn't start from the bottom, now we're here. So, I worked my way up to the top. And these are jobs that other people tend to look down on. These jobs that are often misunderstood, I think, looked down as less than, but they're actually very, very important. They're just not the sexiest, right? According to what society deems as important. She actually ends up having a very endearing, I would probably call it a friendship, but interactions with a local garbage man, another position that is often overlooked, but it's very important. Sanitation is incredibly important, and you have to have people who want to do it. Some people are passionate about it. So in my job, once I actually got the opportunity to go on a ride along with a refuse collector, and it was a lot of fun. It was 90 something degrees outside. It was very hot. And I asked him, I said, he was actually retired military. And I asked him, I said, because he loves his job. He's retired now. He was like, why refuse collection? And he said he felt like it was his civic duty to help pick up the garbage, the refuse. He's like, somebody has to do it. And he felt like he loved the city in which he lived. Well, I live in this city too, but he loves the city. And he felt like he was doing his part to keep it clean, because it is a very important job. And we need people like that, right? And just because, he's not a doctor, attorney, a CEO, whatever, he's not in banking, whatever, his job is just as important, if not more important in some ways, depending on how you want to look at it. Also, in order to handle that equipment, these trash trucks and equipment, you have to be highly skilled. It is actually, in the United States, always within the top 5 or 6 most dangerous jobs in the country is to be a refuse collector. Bam. There you go. I could form only one thought. The office is the perfect place to destroy thoughts and ideas. She got burnout from that job, haha, as if someone who stacks shelves could get burnout. A waitress, a call center worker, a cleaner, a receptionist, society's losers and their dumb little jobs. I actually hate that mindset. I think it is so elitist and stuck up to look down at a person because of their job title. It has nothing to do with your character. Just because somebody is, there are people who are at the top of the totem pole and they're not good people. And they're so out of touch with reality. I don't have respect for people who look down on other people because of their occupation. Whether they chose it or they chose it and love it, or they're doing it because they're making ends meet or because it doesn't make a certain type of salary. Who cares? That has nothing to do with the worth of a person. I can't stand it. Like it irritates my soul. And I think maybe that's because I also work with a lot of my colleagues. They are equipment operators and they're out there keeping infrastructure alive. They're repairing it. They know how to operate trucks and backhoes and jackhammers and street sweepers and all this stuff. But what they do is highly, highly important. They've worked in construction, or they are in construction. They have backgrounds in electrical and in plumbing and all this stuff. And it's just, they're often overlooked, but what they do is just really important and they're highly skilled. They're just not in a white coat. That's my rant. Anyway. He's a man who is convinced that everyone's career path must follow the pattern of personal development and growth. Again, those people who, you must always want to have to seek the next step. You always have to climb the social ladder. Some people don't want to. They are content, and that's okay. Every office worker is just a little puppet, and when the puppet breaks or gets mangles in the machinery gears, well, that's no problem at all for the office system. The office is really just a machine like me. Its staff easily replaceable components. People tend to overestimate their own value and importance, but I understand that this is crucial to the employee's psychological motivation. Only if they feel this way will they show up for work day in, day out. I thought that quote was brilliant. Again, this is from the perspective of if you're buying into this system. Some people, they're going through the system, but they are not mentally involved in it. Like they're in it, but they're not of it, if that makes sense. So lastly, this book highlights how technology plays a role in highlights the role. That's what it is. Again, freshly written review. Fresh off the presses with lots of typos. So this book does highlight, hard copy does highlight the role that technology plays in our modern society. And this, I think, was very uniquely done. So kudos to Veldman, because she gives the printer its own chapter. and it narrates the chapter. And I was not expecting it when I came across it. I don't think this is necessarily a spoiler because either way, when you read it, like, it's a treat to read. I thought it was the best section in the book. It makes you think like, wait a minute, the narrator isn't crazy. In this world, the narrator was right, even though other people think she's lost it. Right? She's unhinged in a little bit, right? Because there's a coworker that hears her talking to the printer, but doesn't realize she's talking to the printer. They think she's just talking to herself. But anyway, there's just a lot of discussion in this book about how technology has altered our existence, its impact on our communication methods, our jobs, our privacy, our data. Our data is up for sale. We're always being tracked, etc. I mean, we have cell phones everywhere we go now, and our cell phones are tracking us. They're listening to us, you know? That roaming mind is the true mind in both human and machine, that is the mind that provides the ideas and concepts people truly want to pursue. That the tempo of repetitive movement is often at the root of poetry and music. Face-to-face relationships, the importance of looking someone in the eye, but I am of the opinion that life doesn't have to be that literal. Even we, the faceless, are capable of taking responsibility for something outside of ourselves. We too can have relationships, create something bigger than the sum of our parts. We don't need to have specific lips, noses, eyes, eyebrows for that. It is being tracked by antenna, picking up the phone signals passing by. I am not the only one constantly monitoring and recording data, then drawing conclusions from it. So let's wrap this up. I am glad that this was sent to me because, again, I wouldn't necessarily have maybe been drawn to it myself. No, just because maybe it's impossible to keep up with releases and so sometimes something has to be presented to you and you're like, oh, maybe I would actually, I'm interested in reading that. I think that Veldman took a topic that is in a lot of novels these days. Think the Employees. Ripe is another one that I would like to read. It's based more in Silicon Valley, actually. Even Convenience Store Woman, where we have this very unconventional narrator who works at a convenience store, which is, and she has no desire to do anything else. She loves the convenience store. She even talks of the convenience store as an entity that's living, breathing, thinking, kind of like this woman's printer. And it's critiquing society, how society looks at certain people who hold certain types of jobs and these people in society who are outliers. I think that this is a nice addition to that realm, that sphere of literature. And again, I like a novel that's going to critique modern work culture and the insane amount of time that we consume at work. Think about it. We spend oftentimes more time, we spend more time at work and with the people at work than we do with our own friends and family. And I can't be the only one who is just disturbed by that. And there are times I'm like, how do I get out of the cog? How do I get out of this system? Because it feels like it's limiting freedom, right? And her having a relationship with the printer, I think, puts its own quirk and spin on this niche, if you will, that we're seeing in lit more and more. I enjoy Veldman's writing style. It's direct, and she always had a way, but it's direct, but she still had an eloquent way of getting it across. My only critique for this novel is that, for the most part, is that it is very, very, very heavy-handed when it comes to her talking about straight white men. And I'm sick of it. I'm sorry. Like, it's just not, it's not subtle. It only happened a few times. If it happened more than that, I would have been like, ugh. I would have been really, really annoyed. I was annoyed when it happened. It's just these massive statements. There's no data to back it up. You're just, you're just throwing it in a narrative because that's how you feel. And I'm not saying that people don't go through certain experiences in life. Just because I may not experience something doesn't mean that somebody else hasn't. But it's these big, grandiose statements like this is a universal thing, and it's not. It's just, and also I think at this point it's cliche and played out. And I did mark those points in the book where I was like, please stop this. Or if you want, or here's the thing, this is what I wrote. When it's so heavy handed, it's across a lot of narratives written by women these days that it's lost its punch, I think. It reads like a lecture more than an actual part of the narrative, and it can feel disjointed. It also, to me, comes across as condescending and patronizing. Like, this is what you need to believe, and it's getting annoying. Just like they throw in these key words, and it's fitting a larger narrative, puns intended. And again, I say this a lot. It doesn't matter to me if I actually agree with you on the points or not. I disagree. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Where did that come from? It doesn't matter if I actually agree with you or not. It's how you say it. Show me, don't tell me. Make it a little bit more subtle, and it'll actually be more impactful instead of being preached at. But anyway, that's my critique. But I thought that the printer's chapter was so good. It actually kind of reminded me of Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. I didn't like that book, actually. I'm just going to review that book. I read it back in 2021, but I think it's worth a review. There's a whole There's a whole chapter told from the perspective of a flea. It was brilliant. But anyway, but overall, I liked the book. I did. I liked hard copy. I had some critiques, obviously, with some heavy-handedness, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was unique and quirky, and I liked the niche that it fits into as lit. And I hope that this author continues to write novels and that they're translated in English. I would be curious to see what else she chooses to write about. I actually had fun reading this one. So I gave this a 3 out of 5, which is middle of the road for me, but pretty good. And I enjoyed it. Have you heard of this book? If so, are you interested in reading it, or were you interested in reading it already? Please feel free to leave me a comment below. Also, feel free to like, subscribe, and follow me on Instagram, where I get up to more bookish shenanigans. I post all of my book content there first, and I like to post the occasional goofy meme or reel in the Instagram stories, because we all need a good laugh, and I like to laugh at dumb stuff. Anyway, bye.